Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first of the draft matches for the Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Highway to the Zenith Zone League. We have the wonderful Smapety bringing this to you today as the restreamer. We have Rinnet on tracking. My name is Rex Raoul, and I'm joined by Dusty Griff. Dusty, are you looking forward to this race? I know I am.
I am so hype, so unbelievably hyped for this round to begin. It's going to be a wild ride, I think.
Yeah, I think the league has brought out the best in a lot of racers, and now that we're getting to this point where we're down to the draft matches, we're seeing the best of the best. And I think these four racers, elmagus, Air, fleury14, and nightdew, are going to put on a great show for us today.
Yeah, I think so. And this is a pretty hype match considering we have the top place person from the round of 32 in it, as well as the three people who got through in the play-ins. So this is going to be an interesting to watch.
Yeah, we've got some desperation coming in with those play-in matches, but then with the top-rated person from the round of 32, we've got all sorts. We've got confidence and desperation all marched into one. Should make for an exciting race today.
Absolutely.
Plus, we get to start with, who's my favorite character of all time, Yang. So that's a good bonus too.
Yeah. My favorite name for him, the Punch Wizard himself, coming in ready for the day.
Yeah, there's no hiding with Yang. He's not getting back row glitch, so he's up there punching.
Yeah, and as Invented says in chat here, elmagus was first last year, nightdew was second. Air and Fleury are no slouches at all at this randomizer, so this is going to be an extremely competitive series between these four.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are quite good at this randomizer, and all four of these are in that upper echelon of runners, I think.
Absolutely.
So we're on a delay. You probably noticed, and I apologize that we had to delay a little bit longer than we would have liked at the beginning. But we've got everything good to go from here on, and it looks like now our racers are underway. And going to be excited to see who they get to be paired up with and what item we get. That Rose is going to be very, very satisfying, I think, for the runners.
Yeah, really nice to get a Rose start there. That's a character that you can take to the end game. Is always going to be useful. And then you get a Sand Ruby, which means you get a character check that could be any character too, because under this flag set, you're not going to start with Edge or Foos, and you're not going to see them at Baron Inn or Hobbs, but they could be at that Sand Ruby, and if you see them there this early, they're going to really speed things up for you. And it could be another character that will also do some work for them.
Yeah, I think this is going to this might change a lot of people's opens. With a Yang Rosa start, I don't know how many people will be going to Kaipo early, but with that Sand Ruby, that's a real good incentive for these runners to head over there. Can route in the shop check, because that Kaipo shop check is something that's when do you run it in? That it's just lots of runners have different feelings on where they do that.
Absolutely. I know for myself, a lot of the time, if I'm running low on money or if I need extra resources, I want to route in the Miss Village check for some items early on. So I do a Kaipo at that time, but that's not every seed. It's pretty actually rare. But this really incentivizes that.
We do see them pick up a Thunderclaw in the Baron Inn. The Elemental Claws, I think, are something that are very important for, especially the early game for Yang. If he can hit the weaknesses on the bosses with the correct elemental weakness, he can do quite a bit more damage because he needs some help at the beginning. He catches up pretty good in the late game, but at the beginning he can be hampered by his damage.
If you see an Odin at a bad spot, that Thunderclaw is going to come into a lot of play for our runners here. And all of our runners doing the same route here at the very beginning in the Town of Baron route to get items, just because there's so much density of treasure chests there. As well, you get the shop check.
Yeah, you get as you said, the shop check. You also get to peek, and we see another Yang Baron Inn with a Golbez blocking that. I don't know how soon people are going to be wanting to try to face Golbez in that first spot in the Baron Inn. That's kind of a rough placement.
That's going to be probably delayed, and at least it will be pretty low HP value there, but he can still do a bit of work. It can hurt a little bit there, so.
Yeah, there's that, and it's going to take quite a bit of time as well. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and if your reward is just another Yang, somebody that you've already got represented in the party, then it's depending on how much do I want to check that one key item potential that you've got there as well.
For sure. And we do see the Quake Kid in the bed here today, which is honestly pretty much would be pretty close to the top of my list that I want to see characters early on.
I think, especially for this party, where you've got somebody who's known to be a physical attack.
Absolutely.
We've got the white mage, and now we've got the black mage there. We've basically got all of our bases covered right now for what you might want to have based on what bosses you might see early too.
We do see sirens in that Kaipo in too. So the Kaipo, the Sand Ruby check, really paying off for people early on here.
Yeah, and it's really good if, in addition to that Sand Ruby check, which the runners are kind of forced into by that Sand Ruby start, it's nice that they do get something valuable out of shop check as well. It's like, at least I'm not just doing this for this. I've got something else that's worth going here for too.
Absolutely. And we see pretty much 4 mirrored screens here with everyone doing Dempsey in here, looting this, which makes sense. Early on, you really want to get some damage, some items to do a bit of damage just so you can get through those early boss spots pretty quickly. So,
see a very unique item in the Moon Veil as one of the items in there. That's going to, if we see a boss that deals physical damage in a very difficult spot, that can really come in handy.
As pretty much one of the items that can be a game changer if you find a really bad boss on a hook route, or even late game in the Fey March spots, or in Spot on the Moon. If you find a bad boss, that Moon Veil can either shave minutes off of a fight or save a fight for you.
Yeah, try to deal with something like Antlion at something like that. The Moon Veil definitely save your bacon there. Yeah. So now we see elmagus heading over to Antlion Cave. Not too much of a surprise. As I've stated on other runs, this is a very common early check for a number of reasons. There's a lot of treasure to loot, so you can really build your bankroll to buy those really nice items like the sirens that we saw earlier, as well as there's a boss at the bottom that guards a potential key item, and that boss is going to be the easiest boss that guards a key item that we see in this run, except, well, I guess maybe the Dark Imps. But with all that said, it just makes a very appetizing place to go.
Absolutely, and it can pay off in so many ways. We see another Palom up on Hops here today with an Azura guarding it, so looks like some of our runners here maybe noping out, maybe looking at what items they have. I think they're going to say no for the time being, probably looking for new arrows or Neville Mill or something, which they don't have quite yet.
Yeah, it could be that, or even Star Veils can help with that fight as well. How much would you like to see multiple black mages like Paloms? Do you think is their value better in doubles, or would you rather just have the one?
I'm biased. I love my reflex strats in all forms, zero miss fights and other fights. So give me all the Paloms, maybe one physical damage person, and I'd be fine. But yeah, definitely. And on this flag set where dupes are enabled, it is really, really nice to get those Paloms, I think, because it gets Quake so early. That's such a quick spell to just get through most of the bosses on the earth and in the underground, so it's quite nice. We do see Leviathan here at the antline spot, which is not too rough for any of our runners. We do have that Thunderclaw, so they'll go get through that pretty fast here.
Yeah, and this spot has very low stats. I mean, that big wave that Leviathan opens with is always going to do 25% of the max health, but the ice 2s that Leviathan chucks out shouldn't be too dangerous at this point.
Not at all. And again, as we were mentioning earlier, still going to see a lot of this mirror play here, where most of our runners are in about the same spot here. We do see a tower key from the antline check, so all of our runners are going to have that. Probably going to be pretty incentivized for most of our runners to check that tower early on when they get underground access, I would say.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of runners who like the gamble of going to tower when you don't have the key. But with the key, there's just like all upside for going to the tower. It's
I'm holding my hand up shamefully over here as you say that.
no, there's a, but the tower is nice because compared to a lot of these places like the Fame Arch and the Luca Cave in the underground, the bosses aren't nearly as difficult, and you get 2 key item checks there. So it's really nice when you've got that tower.
Absolutely.
Although I don't think it's going to be too difficult in any case. Before we found those sirens, we've got
I mean, with the team we have, I would be pretty surprised if once we do get underground access, if we don't have our players don't have Quake by then. I would be pretty surprised if they don't just do a couple sirens to get Quake, because that makes such a huge time difference.
Yeah, Quake and getting the levels on Yang is really going to help him, both with his hit points and his damage that he deals.
Yeah.
Looks like Magus is willing to fight this Ashura at this point.
He did come in here with Ice 2 on Palom, so
right.
It's a little easier on him, so a little understandable giving this a shot. And he's going to have 2 Paloms with level 2 spells after this fight if the other Palom lives, so that's quite nice going into other checks like Fabul.
That's a good point about Palom. Not only we've talked a lot about Quake. He's the Quake kid, and that's something. But even after one battle through that antlion fight, or where Leviathan is, and you learn those level 2 magics, that's a big thing for the early part of the game.
Even though he does do good damage, it still doesn't matter if Azure is going to cure all of our health in 1 cure 4. So this could be a little bit of a slog for Magus, depending on how it goes here. It's a pretty tough fight if you're not using wall or if you're not using lifelock strats, which for those who don't know, you can input an attack as long as it's low delay when life 1 is cast by Jira, and hit her and get her to move her face back to the life 1 face again, which can keep her locked in casting life 1 so she doesn't cure herself. The problem with that is getting the right timing for it, and if you're trying to do big damage with level 2 spells, that can be harder to pull off. We do see elmagus Resetto that, because that was just taking too long for him, I think.
And then we're seeing Mom Bomb in the event spot error and nightdew making that fight. That's another battle that can be somewhat annoying in this early game.
Absolutely.
Like, I can't imagine the runners are very happy about seeing Mom Bomb at this spot.
Those physical attacks from Mom can do some work, and if you don't have an item to clear out the other bombs when Mom does explode, they can do a bit of work themselves. So it can be dangerous at times.
Later in the game, when you've got really power and everything, you can kind of circumvent that by just dealing enough damage to Mom Bomb to kill it before it explodes. But in this place, it's going to be really difficult to force that. So you're going to have to endure that explosion and then the 6 bombs afterwards.
I believe it's 10,000 damage once it switches to the exploding phase. Like, it's 10,000 damage over the actual HP at the spot is how much you have to damage, which unfortunately our characters can't exactly do that much right now. So we will be seeing the bomb here.
That's really rough. So luckily, it looks like nightdew had a lit bulb. That's enough to get rid of the regular bombs, but these gray bombs have a bit more HP.
Well played on that. That's one thing some people do forget is using those lit bolt items or blizzard items, even though they're pretty low damage for clearing out a bunch of enemies that have low HP, like the bombs. Very useful. Very useful.
Yeah, it's what I like to think of it is making sure you know what you have available. Really, that's something that can really separate one tier of runners from another.
Sure. Oh, we do find a white robe from that boss fight there. So at Fabul, there's the white robe, which is going to be really nice on Rosa. It's not a huge game changer for our runners here, but it will be really nice to get some extra stats out of her.
Yeah, both the defense and the white magic buffs are very good on that white robe. Looks like Fleury giving that Ashura fight yet another go. See if everything goes. Has he tried to life lock her this time? I haven't checked.
I believe he may have been trying some bluff strats for a second there.
Oh, trying to just make those ice 2s a little bit.
He
But
just
that Tier 4 hits, yeah.
the Tier 4 hits. He was trying to life blocker and get enough damage off, but yeah, it's a rough fight there, where that early on when you're trying to get the damage out.
Yeah, once you get a couple more levels and you can do quite a bit more damage, like even if you get to the point where you've got virus on Palom, you might be able to wipe out that Ashura really quick, and then be an easy job to get that second Black Mage.
Yeah.
We'll
Find
see
a stack of mute arrows or another bow, or a character that can use another mage effective weapon would be a ton of difference here too. As Zilch points out, it is very hard to time the life lock with spells as well, as I was alluding to a little bit earlier.
Yeah, those level 2 spells do have a noticeable charge time. So if you're trying to do that, then it's not as easy as just like using, as you say, like mute arrows or a mute daggers.
Yeah. And we do see Star Veils in the Troya shop, which is a very nice pickup for nightdew there. Very happy. I'm sure he'll be happy to see that. That's one of the big things people will be looking for. And I know it's one of the big things I look for early on in the earlier game, because it can just make so many boss fights that are impossible otherwise very possible. So
yeah, and like the Ashura is one of those, but I don't know if people are going to be running back. Like the Star Veil strategy against Ashura is like, okay, if you've got your Star Veils and you find her, but it is kind of a slower strategy, and going back just based on that, I don't think is very likely at this point.
It's fairly time consuming. I would imagine we may see nightdew come back there later for that Palom. It may even leave it off for a while if he wants to try and do a slingshot, because at the end of the day, slingshotting that Palom may be even more worth more to him than getting Palom this early.
Yeah, and that could depend on when we've got under access, when we moon access, and everything like that, to depend on whether or not it's going to be better to pick up that Palom earlier or later to slingshot too. So what grinding options you have available to you when you hit the 10 hit are a big part of that sort of move.
nightdew is going for this earlier Baron in play here now. I guess
armed with Star Veils.
Yeah, he does have Star Veils. One of his characters will go down here, but
yeah, I think this is a really nasty place for Golbez early. But mitigating it by only having 3 might helpful.
It won't take as long, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, someone's gonna die either way, so at least it won't be 3 demolishes all those animations.
But I think the spell power here is a little bit stronger than people might expect. Like, I don't expect Yang to survive any Golb as a spell.
Yeah,
you got to get those Star Veils up. Yeah, the virus goes off before he gets a turn.
Oh, yeah, that's too rough.
Yeah, Golb is a little too fast. That's going to be... And
2500 damage.
That's a lot of damage, too.
Golb isn't messing around up here today.
Doesn't have a lot of hit points, but everything else is really nasty there.
Yeah.
But elmagus making the other play, going up Mount Ordeals. Looks like Error's up there, too.
Yeah, Error. Nightdew also following suit here, just saying, I'm not trying that Golbez fight anymore. I don't blame him.
Looks like the first fight up here is going to be free. We've got the Baron Guards, susceptible to all sorts of status ailments. Whatever you'd like to do. Coffins you can use.
You'll probably see most of our runners use coffins or hourglasses here. They may not want to use coffins just to conserve them because they are super expensive, but they will definitely. I would imagine most people use hourglass here to avoid the counters. Though we do see Magus using coffins and just getting through that fight very quickly, which is the one really nice thing about doing that here. You will get the fight really fast if you use those coffins.
Yeah, coffins are going to be the fastest, but and now with the second fight, looks like we've got the Karate Man.
not too bad to see him here. And of course, actually, it's fantastic to see him here because
Yeah.
of the backwards karate kick that everyone loves to see.
Kick around the world.
The around the world kick, exactly.
Now, if we had a Paladin Cecil in our party, the Karate Man is cheesable. At this point, that's not going to be possible since he's on Mount Ordeals. So you're going to have to actually fight him, even if you found a Cecil.
Yeah, so if you do have a Pally Cecil in your party, for those who may not know, after Yang's second kick, you can attack him with the Pally Cecil, and you'll get the ouch prompt, and the battle promptly ends, which is quite nice.
But this Karate Man doesn't seem super threatening to play, so shouldn't be too difficult to get through him and onto the key item and the third boss in Mount Ordeals.
Yeah. Those level 2 spells will get through those health values pretty quickly.
Here now joining elmagus in that fight. Nightdew not far behind.
Looks like Fleury is probably going to go back, give his shot at the Golbez fight. We actually see nightdew pulling off a pretty cool play here, which is to do the Lilith grind, which is the Siren encounter on Ordeals. At certain spots, which is pretty interesting. He's likely going in for that, maybe to get Quake early. It will be a few of those fights to get that, but it can pay off pretty nice for quick damage.
Yeah, the earlier you learn Quake, the faster all the battles after you learn Quake go. So if you put in a little bit of time here, you might say we see Fleury trying this Golbez fight. I know he was looking at his stats, so he might have been checking those agility numbers to see if he might be able to get a favorable timing with that first Star Veil that goes.
Absolutely. As Nitsky points out too, he may just be going for Virus, which is also very effective here. Virus, very strong, very quick spell to cast.
Yeah, it doesn't have that nasty charge time level 2 spell skip. Looks like the item that Magus got is the Magma Key, so this is how you know this isn't the Hopen. You're getting a Magma.
Two kind of, we already have Sirens, we have multiple Quake kids on the go here. This is just too nice to our runners. We need a bit more troll is what I'm asking for. I'm going for the Demastat CPU here tonight.
I mean, that's always been the dream. I haven't. I've heard of some people in the Discord saying that it's happened to them, but I've never seen it on stream. Yeah. So we'll see.
Very rare. Very rare.
Fleury able to get past that Golbez, fights the CPU in the second. It's not a fun fight, but
yeah,
not a very dangerous fight.
Not exactly, not dangerous, but you can see he has around 3,300 HP on the CPU here, which is going to be a little bit of a slog to get through with the damage that we do have, since you can't direct cast on that CPU.
And it was Mylon and friends up in that third spot. An AoE item like the Lit Bolt, you see air is going to be probably the easiest. Not too difficult at this point in time. Looks like Air was also able to find a Dancing Dagger somewhere in the world. Very useful item for Palom early on. Once you get to the point where you've got Virus or Quake, it becomes outclassed. But it's very useful, especially for these.
Even for this CPU fight, it would be quite nice here. That extra 300 damage would be make this fight go actually quite a bit faster, considering the damage that Fleury has right now.
Yeah, and the fact that it doesn't get reflected.
Yeah,
like pseudo magical attacks. Dancing Dagger in a weird place between physical and magical.
Peasants pointed out that DDs were for sale at Fable, which is pretty interesting. This is an interesting team because Myself, I know I often look for dancing daggers early on. This team, I don't know if I would, because the damage potential is pretty good early on with those level 2 spells, but they are so heavy in utility, like we were talking about. So it's a tough call, this one.
Well, and it's another one of these gambles that the runners have taken into consideration. How much time do I want to invest in actually checking out the equipment shops? The item shops, we know people are going to check, because some of the most broken items are the J items, which are, from that JI flag that we've got in this, the sirens that we mentioned, coffins, among many others, are just so good that it's always worth the time to check the item shops to get them.
Yeah.
The equipment shops kind of depends on your party and how confident you feel with what's doing, as to whether or not it's actually take the time to go in and check.
Yeah, I think early on those checks can really end up being the difference maker for a lot of seeds, either one way or the other, in terms of someone checked the shop and found mute arrows and it got them a 5-minute difference, or they checked every shop and it did nothing for them over other runners. So it's pretty interesting. Like you said, it is definitely a gamble that comes up.
Well, and it definitely comes to your comfortability with the party too. Different runners, like if you're newer to the game, I recommend going to the or the equipment shops. Get those good items or good equipment for your party. It'll make a lot of the runs easier. But as you learn more of the tricks and how to get past them, you can do with less. And I think learning where that balance is. But even if the party is the right or the wrong party, then going and hoping to find those mute areas is something that even the best runners will do.
Absolutely. And we do see Magus going for that. I think probably one siren will give him Quake here. Yeah. He should get Quake off of one siren, which is quite nice. He'll make his way through quite quickly here now.
It looks like he wants to do a little bit more, maybe get a little hit points on his party, maybe do a little bit more for Yang stat, because I think I mentioned it really briefly at the very beginning of the game. Yang's damage output is pretty poor, but once his levels matter probably the most for any character as far as just like physical damage output, since he doesn't have like the elite weapons that most of the other physical do.
Absolutely. See Air underground as well, doing his little bit of a grind here to get what he needs to get.
We see Fleury checking some of the early bosses that don't gate key items, looking for that Mist Dragon as a potential. It looks like Fleury wants to avoid mount ordeals at all costs, but looks like he's figured out that that's probably where he's going to have to go.
Yeah, I think so. He's probably getting to the point where he says, I should probably get this done sooner than later.
So elmagus now in the Fey March. There's 3 potential key items down here. The first one's free, this chest here that we're going to see. It's a ninja shirt. Okay, that's about right. The other 2 are gated by a couple of the more difficult bosses of the game. The Ashura and the Leviathan. Very high stats for both of them. Not sure if elmagus... It depends on what bosses they're there. Not sure whether or not they'll be doable at this point. But those sirens are the eggs that he defeated earlier.
Yeah, if you see a free boss down here, like Dark Imps or something like that, well, even Dark Imps would be actually a little bit painful because you can't stop them, but you need to get that off and survive because they can hit pretty hard at these spots. But if you see one of those free bosses, you might see our runners take a shot at it. We do see possible Water Hag or Gauntlet. We'll see what happens here, and a Kanaizo in the Jura spot.
That Kanaizo is not something that people are going to want to deal with.
No, not at all. We do see Water Hag, but Water Hag has been hit in the gym and is not holding back for elmagus today. So,
yeah, one buff Water Hag indeed.
Well, you could even see what I've even done at that spot is you could use that moon veil that our runners found earlier for this spot, and use the moon veil on water hag is a pretty funny use. But I mean, in one of the stronger spots in the game, it's not a bad use, especially because you can get through this fight so fast early on and get this key item check out of the way.
Another potential would be an illusion.
Yeah, well, you might see illusions happen, but the problem with illusion is how fast water hag's going to be.
Yeah, I guess.
Illusion off.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It would be hard to get in the attacks to prompt the fight to finish.
I saw the rearranging, and I was hoping that parties would get some sort of turn. Like if you could get 2 illusions off, then you're probably okay. But that's just too fast for the party right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. 2 illusions would help out here, but yeah, this thing will be pretty rough. And we see elmagus just piece of this one, which I can't blame him on.
Yeah, I don't even know if he'd be able to get that one moon veil off at that point. So
yeah,
elmagus landing on top of a mountain too.
I think we've all been there. I know I have a million times.
So elmagus now heading into the dwarf castle. We got a shop. There's a lot of chests if people want to take the time to loot it. It's kind of a long route to go there. Kind of depends on how they feel with their money situation. They want to check those chests. But there is also the couple of bosses. You get a potential key item and a character. And these are pretty, for the underground, pretty low level fights. So I think that's what routes people here early sometimes.
We do see Air checking out, the Sheila 1 here, which is an interesting check with the things that they have open, but it's a really quite quick check. So get this out of the way, see what the item is, and continue on. Sheila 1's quite nice because if you end up getting something like a really powerful weapon, if you get a character that can use it, it can be a game changer.
Well, the other thing is if it gives you a potential like key item that leads to a chain that other people aren't going to get to until, because if people aren't routing it until after they get the pan naturally, then this could be something huge for Air.
Absolutely.
Aggression rise as well.
Air going to give his shot at the Golbez fight as well here. And both nightdew and elmagus still working on that Dark Elf at Dwarf Castle. I'm liking more and more the Dwarf Castle play a little early on in Underworld because the bosses aren't too rough. They can be, depending on what it is, it can hurt. But getting another character check and relatively fast character check as well as that key item there can be pretty nice. And we do see Fleury getting through that karate fight, working on that at his ordeal, so he'll be getting his magma key fairly shortly.
Yeah, and with the extra Yang, he's going to have a little bit physical firepower going into the Underworld than elmagus has at this point.
Absolutely.
That's one thing, the extra characters might actually have that water as well.
Yes, that having one more person to take a hit, and especially having one more person being a Yang to take a hit, is really nice because his HP values are just so good. We do see Iridia is our character at the Dwarf Castle here today.
Lots of black magic this seed.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I love to see that because I do love reflex strats. I think black mages are so powerful in this flag set. You can get through quite quickly.
Yeah, I think like if you've got stuff like Crystal Sword Cecil, Dragoon Spear Cane, and a pile of Bacchus wines, you can get through battles really quick as well. But black magic is always reliable.
Yeah, the good thing about black magic is you can always get it versus relying on items. But if you have a Crystal Sword Cecil He's gonna put some of that other damage to shame. And we do see a darkness crystal from Dwarf Castle, which is a really interesting pickup. Finding that fairly early here may make our runners depart paths a little bit. So we'll see how people ride from here. I'd expect most will probably at least clear a tower out, as elmagus is going for here now. But some of them may not. They may just go, depending on when they get that darkness crystal, say, I'm gonna peace out of here and just go for a trip to the moon.
Yeah, and since we haven't mentioned it, what we need in order to complete this seed is access to the underground, which we found with that magnet. Access to the Zeramis fight, which you can get either through the pass or the darkness crystal. Looks like the darkness crystal is going to be the easiest way right now. And we also are using the V1 flag, which is Forge the Crystal. So the crystal that you use to transform Zeramis into the final form must be forged by using both the adamant and the legend sword at Cole Smith in the underground. So we now have the seed completely wide open. We've got all access to the entire underground and the moon. And so now you can go basically anywhere to try to hunt the legend sword of the end, neither of which have been found yet.
Absolutely, and that's definitely would be a big part of runners, how they consider what their next path is going to be on this seed. I think in terms of, hey, I don't have either part of go mode yet in terms of legend sword or adamant, so maybe I will just go straight to the moon and get those high density key item checks and my levels. The problem with the moon, of course, is it does take a bit of time, and you do have to travel through the moon and go to each spot. The boss fights can be pretty terribly hard. But it'd be really interesting to see how runners choose to do this. And we do see Magus go to the top of tower and find an antline there, which is going to be not the worst thing, but it's going to take a little while to get through this fight. He does have black mages to at least get past the counters, because every time you use the fight command on antline, you do get a counter back, which A, takes time, B, does damage.
So, well, and the power and aim command from Rosa and Yang also get around that. So with all of the characters being able to bypass that counter and still be able to do damage, and as perceived from even the kick will get past. Not sure if that's what he meant to do in that situation, but
I wanted to throw in a quick buffer there or something. Who knows? I don't question what Magus does. Yeah, you see that Ice 3 doing quite a bit of work there, which is really nice from our Palom.
Looks like nightdew is now going to be checking out the bosses at the bottom of the Fey March. We'll see if he do that water hag fight. Looks like he wants to do some shopping.
As the Moon Dude is saying, nightdew picking up that complimentary Fey March ninja shirt. I went to the Fey March and all I got was this lousy ninja shirt.
They're now finally checking Sheila 1 after doing some of the stuff that he wanted to do. Gets the hook. That's an interesting item. It does open up the last shop that wasn't available before. Well, I guess he doesn't have access to Hummingway shop because he hasn't done Castle yet. But the Evelyn shop is one of the places where you could find the real elite items like Bacchus Wines, Cure 3s, that sort of quality of item.
We do see nightdew is actually going to go for that Moonveil strat this time, so he will get through this water hag fight.
Yeah, Moonveil basically makes this fight, but it does cost very tough. Very useful item.
For those who may not know, Moonveils are one of the most powerful items in the game. They cast, they use a cast of wall on the character, as well as give a character barrier, which makes them immune to regular attacks. So every regular attack against the character that has a Moonveil on will miss, and that does not wear off the barrier portion of it.
Yeah, and so for bosses that only do physical attacks, such as that, you're just not going to lose that fight.
Ooh, an Earth Crystal from that. I'm curious to see if he'll choose to chase that at all. It wasn't a big time-consuming fight, but since he did use the Moonveil for it, he did use some resources, so Zot is a questionable one because of how long the check it is, but it does give you 2 character checks as well as that key item check there. So, be interested to see what nightdew chooses to do here.
It's tough because I imagine that most of the runners are pretty heavy they've got, so the value of the characters might not be high. But if you think that other people might have skipped that fight down in Feymarch, and you're the only one that has access to that, then you might prioritize that. That's a little bit of metagaming. Of course, the runners don't know what the other racers are doing. They're doing it all. We get the benefit of seeing everything, but that's just one of the thoughts that might drive you to Zot over somewhere.
Yeah, Zot and many other rabbit holes are one of those things that come up in metagaming a lot in terms of, oh, do I leave to chase this, or do I go through this key item that I've had for a very long time and chase that, or that sort of thing. And that often comes down to, has anyone finished yet? And for how this round works, the top 3 finishers of this race will move forward until to the next race. The last finisher will not. So it is quite a advantage to metagame a little bit off of these, since you do get to move forward as long as you get in the top 3. But it's hard. You can metagame yourself out of a place pretty easily too.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, metagaming without perfect information is a difficult line to walk. But if you can do it, if you can navigate it right, you can pay off big time. Nightdew, the first of the runners off to the. We're going to enter the Lunar Palace. We're going to get a character check after a quick nap in the Big Whale.
Ooh, and we see a crystal ring from Tower Key. Not the worst thing to find. I mean, it's a great item, but certainly not what you'd want to see after the time spent on that.
Yeah, one of the best defensive items for the arms part.
And we'll see Magus actually take that crystal ring, which does make you immune to the hold gas here, and probably go forward with the Golbez fight.
Yeah, definitely going to make that Golbez fight a lot better. Character on the moon is Tella. There is an advantage to taking Tella.
I would absolutely be happy to see Tella here, because it helps you with, if you want to do some gold dragons. It makes that grind quite a bit better. He's a great anchor. He's a useful character. People give Tella a hard time, but I tell you, he does some great work.
And indeed, nightdew takes Tella Aradia and is heading down and looks like wants to check out the boss in the lunar subterranean.
Magus not needing to even use a Star Veil or anything here with the spells that he does have. He can just go ahead and cast straight to Golbez and get through this fight quite easily.
Yeah, that fire too should take out Golbez without.
BG Rich points out, we do finally see some divergence in routes, which is, as we were mentioning earlier, once you see that darkness crystal come into play, that's definitely where you will start seeing quite a bit of this pick up here and seeing what people kind of go for.
Yeah, I think early on there wasn't a lot of choices that the runners needed to make, given what this party and the items were given at the beginning of the route. So you weren't going to see much. Now we're at the point where, let's we've got a magma key, we've got a darkness crystal. You can go basically wherever we want.
And nightdew is going for a couple of these gold King Ryu's here, so he's going to get his character some levels. Maybe check out, I would imagine he'll go straight for the D-Lunar spot, see what's there, and make his way through the moon here.
Yeah, while Flurry heals up and give another shot at this water hag after tuning down the battle speed. That's something that, against faster bosses, is something that runners, it's another tool that's in the arsenal of the runner, is the battle speed. Knowing how to use that is really help out your game if your goal is to complete these seats faster.
Absolutely. On that one battle speed that most characters will play most of the seed at, ATB runs really fast. So if you're not run buffering, or if you're fumbling a little bit through the menu, you can eat turns very quickly. So turning down the battle speed gives you a lot more leeway. It's not a bad call at all at this water hag to try and get him down.
Also, put his Yangs in the back. They're not going to do damage, but against the water hag, you don't care how much damage you're dealing. So as long as you hit the water hag 3 times, it's going to die. Even as you see that lit one at the end, deal 1 damage. And arg, that's all I can take. So that's using some of the game mechanics that aren't like, what spell am I using or what item I'm using. These are other things that you've got available to you that you can use in situations like this. So, there's more to the game than just making those kind of like first level decisions of, am I going to attack, am I going to cast a spell, that sort of.
I do taking some time here to get through a few more King Ryu's. Wants to get the levels, probably get some level 3 spells and maybe grind his way up quite a bit for the boss fights here, which he can't blame him on. The moon bosses, depending on what you find, can be terrifying and also take quite a bit of time. And also, he is only sitting at 5 key items right now, looks like, so he's quite a ways away from 10 key items. So since he is doing the moon now, it's probably not a bad idea to get some levels here, since he won't be getting a quicker experience anytime soon.
And that 10 key item number is important because once the runners reach 10 key items, all experience they get from battles is going to be doubled. So that's something that you want to keep an eye on. And also remember that the pass does not count as a key item. Now Error is going to get that crystal ring. And nightdew ready to check that D-Lunar spot. And it's a vanilla D-Lunars.
And it is the vanilla D-Lunars, which is an interesting fight. Definitely doable here. And especially with 2 Palums being able to throw at fire 3s. We probably, if I were to guess, we'll see some frog strats come out, which is once the D-Lunars follow a set script, unless you get them to counter with their virus, in which they'll attack, each one will attack, each one will cast fire, and each one will attack 3 times in a row, then they'll cast breath. Once they hit that breath phase, you can actually reflect that back at them and turn them into toads, which renders them pretty well useless. They can attack you for 1 damage, but that's about it. Then makes the fight extremely simple after that. So we'll see if nightdew goes for that here. He may be able to deal with not enough damage, but these guys are looking pretty fast right now, so I think he'll have to end up doing the frog strats if he wants to get through. Yeah,
he did. I saw a Starveil Rosa, so he's getting ready to do that if necessary, I believe. Oh, and there's the Starveil on Yang. Yeah, getting prepared for the frogs, without a doubt.
This spot also gives 100,000 experience, so he's probably going to want his characters up for this. And there we see it, the double frogs come out. It's a beautiful thing to behold.
Yeah, this is a strategy that I believe was found by Dipwood in last year's.
Absolutely. I think it astounded everyone. It was a beautiful find at the time. Because this fight can be pretty tricky, and it can be rough, since you are on a timer for that breath. So getting around that can be tough. So finding that it really, really helped a lot of players get through it.
Yeah, it's dangerous. You've got that breath that you had to deal with, or you could fight and deal with virus script, which is probably even more dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
In difficult spots, this was tough, and so this was like a big relief to find this strategy. Like a way to cheese the D-Lunars is something that was really helpful for a lot of runners.
Yeah, we'll see.
And plus, we get to see frogs.
Well, exactly. It's not every day you get to see some lunar dragons turn into frogs. nightdew also showing off that you can use cure moves, either cure items or cure magic, to actually damage the D-Lunars there for really good effectiveness due to them being undead.
Yeah, if you find the D-Lunars early in the game, you can use like Cure 2s to attack them without virus script as well.
So we see music and a rat tail there. So Air's the only one of our runners that does have a hook at the moment. So unless nightdew does go for that Sheila check, if he maybe finds a pan or something here and goes for it later, you probably won't see that turned in for a while. Air may turn it in himself if he does Moon sooner than later, but they're really interesting to see there, as well as that music would be a wonderful thing, as everyone loves the music check.
We see Dark Knight Cecil in the plague spot.
Gonna deal a bit of damage, but Yang will survive through this with his high HP values. It looks like he's gonna be the only one that survives.
Well, one person surviving is a lot better than 0 people surviving.
Absolutely. I'll take 1 over 0 any day. There's not a lot of experience at this spot either. I think it's around 31,000. So, yeah, 31,200. So, at the end of the day, you're not too sad to see your characters go down here. And a pass picked up there. Really, really nice item to see on this slide set.
Yeah, the pass enables a shortcut to Zeronis through the pub in Troya. So you don't need to, after you forge the crystal, you don't need to fly back up to the moon, walk all the way down the lunar subterranean, sometimes called the Walk of Shame.
It's so important on this flag set, since you do need to, even if you find go mode on the moon, you have to go back to Earth to forge it anyways. It makes a huge ton of difference.
Yeah, if you're not in V1, then you have to just find the crystal and if you find the crystal, basically like, for example, where nightdew just found the pass, then you could just continue walking down to the bottom of the lunar core and find Zeronis, no harm, no foul. But in this, you have to go back to Hut in the underground, and so the pass, big time saver.
Absolutely. Oh, we find another free fight. Free in quotation marks for me here, with the Bahamut here at the Ogopogo spot. I say it with quotation marks just because I wiped the Bahamut even just yesterday by being overzealous with things. But if you cast Star Veils and just keep track of your walls here, this fight will go through over quite easily.
Yeah, so that second point is important. Keep track of your walls.
Yeah.
Star Veils do not last indefinitely.
Yeah, and there's a lot of HP at this spot, so it's going to take a few reflect Mega Nukes to get through it.
Yeah, and once you've got your Star Veils up and you're reflecting that Mega Nuke, then the Palums can do some additional damage with their level 3 element down. But you've got to make sure that, like, by the time the third Mega Nuke comes around, there's a good chance those Star Veils will.
Absolutely. And Star Veils, while they do last a bit longer than, or quite a bit longer than Wall does, they still will run out.
And unlike a lot of the future, it's not necessarily easy to know whether or not that Star Veil is still up until it's too late.
You have to go into the...
Yeah, you can describe that.
Yeah, you basically have to go use either white magic or an item from the menu, such as like a heal potion or cure potion, to pop up your character status menu that shows what status afflictions or effects are on your character, which could show you Zerk and then even if you have access to that, some statuses, as you can see on nightdew stream, Berserk has higher priority to show up over Wall, so you can't even tell if Yang's Wall is still up. But doesn't matter. Well, he gets through it pretty handedly here. Gets some good experience for himself too.
And even when you check using the white magic, it's not 100% effective, because there's going to be ATB between you checking and the Mega Nuke going off. So
yeah, you can say, I'm good, and then get out of that menu, and ATB tick goes, and it falls down, and you're toast.
But yeah, in the end, nightdew, the extra damage from the high level Palom and Yang make it so that it ends up being a moot point. Bahamut goes down relatively easily.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see package come out of there. Very unlikely we'll see the package character checked this seed, but a nice item to find because it is a key item that contributes to that 10 key item count. As we mentioned earlier, when you get those 10 key items, it does double all experience that you receive, which is extremely helpful for quickly moving towards the end game levels that you need for the Zeramus fight or boss fights.
Looks like Error wants to give that that blue turtle a shot. That's a scary proposition.
Gutsy call. I enjoy gutsy calls, but he's gonna have a pretty rough time getting through this quickly. He could possibly get through it, but
I think he's gonna eat at least one wave here.
Ooh, that lip ball actually does pretty good damage there because of Yang's high health and the weakness for lightning there. And
yeah, when the water is up on Keinazo, he's weak to lightning. When the water is down, he's weak to ice. Keinazo is a very unusual boss in respect that it changes the weakness so often.
And Air doing a great job here, actually. He's already dealt quite a bit of damage, so it's a little less worrisome if a wave does go off at this point. It will still hurt, but he may be able to survive a little better. So he's making some pretty good work here.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that lip bolt got off. I thought the timing between everything that the wave would go off, because sometimes the wave can be queued, like in this case.
Exactly. That's the trouble that you run into many times when you find Keinazo, is that you can get off a Thor Rage or Zeus Rage or a Lip Bolt or Lip 1, but he still has the wave already queued, so it doesn't matter, which is really troublesome.
I actually pointed at my screen when I said that. Like the people who are watching are
Yeah, I think for his initial cast, he was helped out by the Silk Web that he applied first. Silk Web being an item that applies to cast of slows, which can, if the character isn't fasted at all, will make them the slowest they can be in the battle at that time, which is an extremely helpful and powerful item, just due to the fact of how it can pretty much put relative agility in your favor for a fight. For Keinazo, it's almost necessary a lot of the times, I would say, just for how powerful it is.
Omega's able to defeat the D-Lunars without using Frog himself. Able to pull out the victory in that one, so very good job there.
Oh, very good job.
We also see nightdew using illusions to battle this pale dim. Whenever you're dealing with difficult physical bosses, if you don't have access to the moon veils, because they're very rare, illusions are usually a very serviceable stand-in.
Illusions being, yeah, exactly. Equivalent to the cast of Blink. Blink being gives you 2 immunities to physical attacks, so once a character gets attacked twice, that blink will fall off and they will be vulnerable again, but you can't reapply. Illusions being a very, very powerful item that you can find in shops for the low price of 1,000 gold.
Yeah, they're affordable and very useful in a lot of spots, especially Moon, where the physical attacks are going to be hitting hard. Air is still plugging through this Keinazo, able after that wave hit. He's in pretty good shape now. This ends up being a good key. Oh, that Ice 3 is going to do huge damage here. If he's able to get through...
Very nice. He gets through the shell.
If this is an important key item, this could be a very, very big game for Air.
Absolutely, because the thing is once you leave that Fame March and you don't do those bosses, most people are not going to want to go back there and do it. So committing to this early, while it is risky just due to the time sink, it can pay off big because you know other people aren't going to want to do this.
Not until absolutely necessary.
Absolutely.
I mean, not doing Keinazo unless absolutely to the league. So,
ooh,
pan. That could be big.
There, so.
Meanwhile, Nightdew gets the spoon. The pan, I think, is a more useful item than the spoon.
Pan is even. Yeah, I think so. I love myself a good spoon, but I'd rather see the pan most times. The really interesting thing there is we do know that Hook is behind Sheila 1.
Absolutely.
So people are not going to want to go to Sheila 1 until they see that pan somewhere. So they're going to leave that check. They're likely going to leave that check pretty late. Air already knows that hook is there. If he gets that rat tail and it does lead to something we need, this is huge for Air here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that could, if they work out right, I think Air has made some gambles that could put him in a very strong position in this race. Looks like the other runners are kind of going in similar routes. So if what Air is doing doesn't pay off, then the other three could benefit from that. But I think Air has been put himself in a unique position, and so that's really nice.
For sure. And as we were mentioning earlier, nice to see this different routes going on here. Just the next gal from the first turn in on Pam, but we'll see what the return to Sheila gets us. X-Scal being one of the strongest swords in the game, a very strong throwable item too if you have an edge, but really only useful if you do have an edge to throw it or a Cecil to wield it. So
yeah, we haven't seen Cecil yet, although no one's checked the package or Tower of yet. I mean, those are the only character checks available left, but those are the two that we might have seen. I guess technically we've got available to us the Giant of Babel character check, but we check.
Just a Baham from that Pan turn in. So while there is value in the fact that Pan is buried behind that Kanizo, putting off that Sheila 1 check for a lot of people, the value wasn't quite there for the Pan itself. But we will see if that hook does pay off. Just the fact of that Pan being in that spot is pretty helpful. The danger being if someone does get one of the parts of go mode and wants to just do Sheila 1 without doing that Kanizo, that'll obviously be a time save for them over Air's play here. Yeah,
there's still the possibility that that rat tail is going to help Air in the end as well.
Yeah. Yeah, hope that, in my mind, I would be hoping, well, obviously, we know where the rat tail is and whatnot, but I would be sort of hoping that rat tail leads to, a Baron key or something, and that has both your items.
Both halves of go mode.
Yeah. Blaze asking, has anyone done Zot? No one has done Zot just yet, so that is still open.
But it looks like Air is going to be avoiding Zot. Getting that big whale over in Massidia, that usually signals a moon trip is incoming.
nightdew fighting through this evil wall fight. When you see evil on the moon, it's going to be a little bit of a rough time because of the high HP value, the fact that the fight is on a timer if you don't have things that are immune to instant death, which I think he should, but it still is pretty rough to get through just because of all the attacks from evil wall and the counters to magic damage and that sort of thing here.
Ooh, and we are in crush phase.
Are in crush phase. A lot of times you can be even fast enough to life your characters back up through crush, but especially on these moon spots, that could be tough just due to how fast that can be. And he is through it, so gets through that right in time there.
And Dodo, is it theoretically possible for Rat Tail to Big Tail? Absolutely.
Absolutely it is, yeah. And just a Dragoon Spear there. He won't be very happy to see that, unfortunately. But he is just getting through these moon boss spots in order, so.
And I think with that, nightdew has cleared out all of the lunar subterranean. Heading over to Cape Bahamut next. Gonna check for value.
Yeah, a lot of runners will discuss, if they want to top down the moon, if they want to bottom up the moon, bottom up being going down to the ribbon spot, the delunar spot first, and starting there, then doing the plague spot, then the Ogopogo spot, and so on. Or starting at the value cave itself, Bahamut Cave, first, and then moving down from there. A lot of times, you'll see that decision be made because they may already have a piece of go mode, and they only need one key item to finish the seed. But as we've seen with most of our runners here, they're doing a bottom-up strategy.
Yeah, there's a little bit more density of key items down from the bottom up, but sometimes you might do the top-down gamble if you might be behind.
We've seen a bit of a rough Ogopogo here. That is gonna have a lot of HP. It's gonna be pretty fast. And with mage characters, you're gonna get a bunch of counters of blaze if you do direct cast. What you can do is you can cast a veil or a wall and reflect off of that to get past the counters of blaze, but it's pretty rough to keep those veils up when the Ogo is going to be one-shotting most of your characters here if you don't have your illusions up.
Yeah, this is a real... I mean, Ogopogo is nasty. Nasty. Even, like, high-level characters can have... Especially as if you say you've got a magic-based party like this.
Yeah,
Not
and
like
we do see nightdew reset out, just gather things here a little bit, which is not a bad call. Once you get into a fight and you get put in a spot where only one or two of your characters are left, it makes quite a bit of sense to say, hey, let's just reset out, regather how my strategy is going to go for this. Maybe turn the battle speed down, maybe mess around with my anchor a little bit. There's a lot of different things that can help this fight out.
Yeah, either that or maybe just think like, I know what I'm getting to going into fight, so now I know exactly what I'm going to be doing, strategy.
Exactly. Just get back. Those first couple rounds of this fight can be so incredibly important.
Yeah, since if you start in from full health with that double big wave at the beginning, it means you're going to 50% right off the bat.
Absolutely. So I'm saying, is that vanilla D-Lunars? It is vanilla D-Lunars.
And the illusions going up, that's going to be a big thing, because the main source of damage it looks like nightdew wants to do on this Ogo is the Berserk Yang, which makes perfect sense, because that's going to be physical damage, not going to trigger that blaze. So using the illusions to keep his people as safe as possible, physical attacks in between waves, not wanting to worry with the blaze counters, and letting Yang do as much damage as possible. One of the nice things about Tell is he's another person who has that blink spell, because you can't use an illusion when you berserk. You want to have people be able to recast that blink on Yang if necessary.
Absolutely. And while you can get through this fight with magic damage, it's quite tough, as you mentioned. We're getting those walls up and reflecting and keeping people alive, but the wall up is really tough at times. So getting through physical damage is usually the way to go, but sometimes your hands are tied, and we do see Yang go down. So a little bit of a tough time here, which is, as we were mentioning, pretty well to be expected. This fight's not going to be easy for anyone that comes into it.
Yeah, I think by the time elmagus gets there, he did a little bit more grinding than nightdew did, so he's going to have a bit higher HP total and a little bit higher stats on his party, so he might be able to have a little bit easier time. But that's, I mean, the reason that nightdew is ahead is in this, like, checking through these changes, that he didn't spend as much time doing that grind, so...
Absolutely.
And you see, like, on elmagus' side, Yang has over 4,000 HP at this. So he's going to be able to tank a few more hits from the nightdew's team is going to be able.
His Palom already has nuke, which is really going to be a big help for the Ogopogo fight when he does get here.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the difference. Like, the gamble of not leveling as much doesn't pay off as much when you have to fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Very rude. Very rude Ogopogo here today. We do see Eric get through that D-Lunar spot, so he's going to get his Rat Tail and his Twin Harp. So interesting to see if he'll decide to do anything with that or just keep clearing.
Yeah, it's tough because, of course, we know that Air is the only one who has the opportunity to check that Rat Tail at this, but Air doesn't know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, like, going all the way back down to the planet and all the way back up, those animations eat up time. And I know, at least for me, one of the ways that I try to save time, minimize the number of times that I fly between the two planets.
Yeah, absolutely. Sinmu asking, where's that Ogo? And as people are entering chat, it is in Cape Bahamut. So hurting pretty hard. A pretty rough spot for Ogo to be found in.
Yeah, I think between that and Leviathan, those are two just like really nasty spots to find Ogo.
And nightdew actually saying, you know what? I'm done with this spot. I'm going to move on with my life.
Well, yeah, and nightdew's got plenty of play to check on the blue.
He does, yeah. There is a point, even if you may be able to get through a boss, if it's giving you that much trouble, there is a point when you do say, you know what, let's move on, because spending, 10 plus minutes on a fight can be the difference maker in many seeds. So
looks like he's going over to the Toria area. We might get music, we might get Zai. He's going north to the Chocobo Forest. We're going to
get treated today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll likely see him do the double check here, where you do Magnus Cave into Zot, which is quite nice once you have those two key items to get them done together. Less flying around. They are quite long checks. They're some of the longer checks in the games, just because you do have to go through a dungeon, multiple cutscenes. It's a bit of a slog, but the bosses are going to be much more manageable, which is nice.
Yeah, and luckily, like with Cave Magnus, you can too. So, well, I think he's got the exit items because I don't think there's anybody in his party who cast it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he does have exit as well.
I know that they were for.
Though I do think he does have Tella as well. So.
Tella does have it.
Baka,
correct me on that.
it's easy to forget who asked who, especially Tella. He's a little forgettable. Baka saying 1 hour and no visibility on Legend or Adamant. Exactly right there, Baka. We have not seen either yet.
And we have cleared out the lunar subterranean and found them. So it's either on the blue planet. Part of it might be behind that elmagus is now in the battle with, and it is definitely a lot more prepared for this fight than nightdew was.
Yeah, this should go a little easier for Magus here. We're gonna get some music.
Yeah, it's time to listen to DJ Spoony B's Rockin' Tune.
Some Chrono Trigger today.
Yeah, whether you like Chrono Trigger or Rick Astley, you're going to be happy. And it looks like the fight is valveless. I don't think this is going to be too much of a difficult fight for nightdew here.
Nah, it shouldn't be too rough. A few hits of Yang. 1500 damage. He'll get through this quite quick.
And looks like even at these super high levels, Ogopogo is no joke. He's not out of it yet, but wow.
Ooh, yeah, he hits for so much damage there, and considering how a lot of players run this, he is through it though.
Yeah, the nuke definitely helps. So.
Yeah, a lot of players tend to quit their treasure chest checks quite early in this flag set. Just a white spear behind that Ogo, so nightdew gets paid off a little bit for noping out that, unless he decides to go back to it before other checks later, but
he gets the Luca keys from Cave Magnus, so that's another check that nightdew now has available to him on the blue planet. So
I would expect to see him chase that probably after he does that here. Oh, actually, he seems like he's going to go straight for it. Magus back on the blue planet now, seeing what his route's going to look like. Probably pretty similar. I'd imagine we might see music here. Maybe he'll go back to Fey March and get rid of that Kanizo right quick.
Yeah, looks like that's where he's going, which is probably this could be big for elmagus because this is will start going to lead him to Sheila 1 and 2, which means that elmagus may be the first one to be able to check that rat tail.
I would think so as well. That looks like what we're going to see here today.
And in another part of the underground, nightdew now checking out the cave. This could be the big thing that puts nightdew into the lead too. So these are a couple of big checks that we're going to be getting available to us real quickly.
And we have not. I kind of remember we have not seen any D-Mist yet, so that's still out there, waiting.
Yeah, that D-Mist is always going to be in the back of people's minds, and that's one thing that as the seed grows longer in the tooth, that's going to make that Zot check a little bit more enticing. That there's two bosses up at the top of the Tower of Zot, either one of which could be that D-Mist.
Absolutely. Girl named Captain saying, glad they're not the only one that goes down that rope accidentally. I can highly attest. I'm sure everyone has done that.
Seed,
at least 30.
Bozo Cup, anyone check Tower of Zot? Not yet. That's one of the places that we have not seen.
Another
Excalibur.
We will likely see the boss check here as well.
Yeah, so. Yeah, absolutely. Nightdew's going to check. And we got the Magus Sisters. Still no demon. So the Luca key, or the sealed cave was a bust. I imagine Tower of Zot may be the next check on Nightdew's thing. Or no, he's
also clearing out the Kanizo spot here, or the Azura spot, which has Kanizo at it, I believe.
elmagus gets that pan.
This is turning out to be quite the interesting seed, considering we are an hour and almost 15 minutes in now, and no sighting of either part of the crystal just yet. So this could be anyone's game still.
Well, I had forgotten that elmagus hadn't cleared up yet either, so that's going to cost him a little bit more time down here. I think all of the other runners have completed this. That's what led to the Earth Crystal, right?
I believe so.
So this is somewhere where Nightdew can, elmagus still has the sealed cave and this water hag, and Nightdew has the Nazo. So they're pretty close depending on how they run things from here. But I think right now the two of them are really in a little bit of a lead. Error and Flurry. We'll see how the
Nightdew does have that Earth Crystal, the Twin Harp already done. So since Magus did get that Earth Crystal here, I would expect he'll go do Twin Harp first.
I think that's a good. Yeah, with that, as you mentioned, doing that kind of two up in the Troria area, routing that together is a big time save.
Yeah, which puts them pretty close, pretty tight together here. Though the fact that Magus does have his levels and whatnot, he is set up pretty well.
Right, this is a much more difficult Kanazo fight for Nightdew than it was for Magus.
Getting that damage out is really tough here. Because if you can just come in here and throw nukes down, his waves just won't be as scary at all.
Yeah, you don't really care at that point about scaring away the water if you're just throwing nukes.
And it looks like he's okay here.
Yeah, I think he'll get through it. It's just not going to be as quick as Magus 2.
No.
And so now elmagus heading back up to the surface. probably heading straight to the pool is my guess, to check those Sheila checks. And then we'll see if he decides to go to Twin Harp next or tries to cash in that rat tail.
We do see Knizo in the shell now on Night 2 screen, so he's not far off from a kill here.
Yeah, in tough Knazo spots, once you see that shell, that's the medio phase of the Knazo fight. You just feel relief.
Absolutely.
Isotiyama, I don't believe nightdew did tower.
Yeah, so that is one thing that Magus does have over Night 2 here, is he did have he has tower already completed, so that's not on his books or something that he may want to do. So Night 2 may choose to do that, may continue leaving it off.
Looks like we're gonna get a rat tail check.
Ooh, this is going to be a big moment here for showcasing how this is going to go.
And the rat tail gives us the Baron key.
As we kind of mentioned earlier, if we do that Baron key there, that's really, really interesting, because that's going to be a really good check for our runners, considering it has 2 possible key item spots. Another chain, as Invenerable points out.
My prediction would have been to do music first, but it looks like I was heading straight over to Baron.
It's
like
nice
music
for
into Zot into Baron.
It does leave you right outside Baron after you do Zot, but Baron is a really nice check for efficiency, just to the fact of you get that first key item check, which is around the same time as Zot may take. But then you do get the Odin spot check directly after, which, with how powerful his team is, that's going to be really, really fast. Unless you find Gauntlet there or something, which may be a little slower, but still.
And then 3 potential boss spots to try to.
Exactly. Peasant saying Legend and Adamant Baron was Air's win condition earlier. Yeah, that was what I was thinking would be beneficial for him. But with how quickly Magus and likely how nightdew now moved through the moon and then the other over underworld spots, I think they're quite a far ahead now.
Air has leveled up his party so that Paladin Blank as well. Duke. So that's going to be making it so the rest of the fights are going to be a lot easier for him going through the scene as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That 2 Paladins with Nuke is definitely one way to get through boss spots on the moon handedly, for sure.
Yeah, boss spots on the moon, on the surface, on the Zeromus, like anywhere.
We
got it.
Missed, yeah. Sitting on the throne this whole time.
Well, I mean, I guess storyline-wise, the Mist Dragon could be jealous of all the other summons and wants to die. Take care of Mist Village. I don't know.
And Demist Rain comes crumbling down. Quick order there. We do find ourselves a Jumpman in the spot, but unless he wants from an anchor at this point. Oh, he does take him, actually, so he may use Kane here as an anchor.
Well, there's other options that you can use, especially pistol too, so we'll see what he decides to do. But, level 10 Kane ain't bad an anchor.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot of spears, as Pepsin's pointed out. We did find a Dragoon spear as well as a White spear this seed, so Kane, if you wanted him to do damage, he's very possible.
And now for the item. And there is that legend sword.
instantly go check that D-Mist here, see what they have in store.
Is this going to be the two for right here, back to back? Oh,
Pigtail.
Yeah, we are playing with the no adamants flags. Pigtail is not going to yield an adamant armor as it does in the vanilla game. It's going to yield a top tier piece of equipment, but probably not going to be worth the time to go back.
No, I would imagine most runners there, unless they felt like they really needed some equipment or enchanted equipment, they would likely not check that out.
Yeah, I think it's more in this flag set. It's bonus if you happen to have the pigtail at the time you're checking the red tail.
Absolutely.
Then you get that stuff. And Dodo, adamant is not behind the elmagus region.
Yeah, we know there's a white spear behind that Ogo.
We do see a lunar boss here in the ocean. And we have Plague.
A bad boss to find here. Pretty easily cheesable. And with the damage that Magus does have at this point, he'll get through it pretty handedly.
And we see Rosa using the coffin to keep him at level 10. It looks like indeed he wants to use that level 10.
Nightdew's not far behind Magus here either. He's finishing his Demas fight just now. And I would imagine he'll likely do very much similar, turn that in, see what the Odin spot does have.
But if this Plague doesn't have the adamant, then I think Zot is the only place that we have left, unless I...
Yeah, I believe so.
But then nightdew, if nightdew hasn't done Tower yet, that could draw him to the wrong...
Magus gets the blank text box. But so question mark for everyone.
Oh, and he was trolling him. Go into the inventory.
He's letting us all just worry for a second about what that actually is. Maybe he says, you know what, this is it, I don't even care.
If he goes to Kokol's blind.
Yeah.
There we go.
Looks like the glass helm.
Glass helmet. That was hilarious. All right, Magus. Ooh, looks like Magus is going into Zot first.
Interesting move here. I can understand it, just since no one has not done yet. Also, you know, keeping the music away from the people here.
Yeah. Blaze, no, Magus did not do Twin.
So since this, I believe we know that this has to be adamant here now. Magus will be quite a bit ahead. Now nightdew will be on his tracks, but he's still gonna go do that Odin spot, and he still has some few levels to get for nuke and whatnot. So.
And he might be tempted to Tower.
Exactly, he does have the Tower temptation as well. Nightdew did check a Luca Tinglinator.
We got an Excalibur, or, well, reset out of season. We get a free fight for the Mega Sister spot. We get King Queen of Evelyn, but we're gonna see him getting killed. They're not gonna wait for the freeness to happen.
The spot has around 9,000 health, so each one will have around 4,500 here. So one Quake does in the King. Rosa does a pow pow for 100 damage, very nice, and then we see Queen done.
and make Rosa the punch white wizard. You see Edge as one of the characters up here. Like, I think Magus is going to keep the party as using that cane as the...
I would think so too. At this point, Edge is just not going to do too much for you unless you want to throw some things for a little extra damage in the fight. But
yeah, throwing those Excalibur, depending, like, I think he still has one. Like, so he might ditch Kane. I don't know the agility levels for Cade respectively, so maybe Edward's a better choice for that anchor.
Yeah, but he may take Eddie here just for the anchor. Yeah, he does do that. So Air following suit here alongside Magus and Nightdew doing that Baron Key. Fleury is still clearing out the moon spots. A little bit behind the others here. He's going to give this Ogo a shot, which is probably going to be a little rough. He does have two Yongs who can do some good work being zerked, so he's going to take a bit of time getting through here. We do find our Wyvern at the Valhalla spot inside. Goes down very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Wyvern is kind of a notorious boss, but we've had plenty of other difficult fights to get through early in it, so...
Absolutely.
Seeing
Magus,
Wyvern here is kind of a, like... Yeah,
Magus laughs at this point.
Yeah, as a couple people in the chat pointing out, that is a lot of levels just game, and so that's going to affect his anchoring.
And as we mentioned, no other choice there than for that to be go mode, as we know. So Magus going to run through now, go get his crystal. He has the levels he needs already, so we'll see him go take that pass, and we'll see how this fight goes tonight.
Yeah, at the levels that Magus is at, I don't like... The anchor might not be quite what he wanted Edward to be when he picked him up, but his other four characters are at this point that I don't think he's going to have too much trouble with Zero.
Not at all, yeah. As Moon Dude mentions, yeah, Nightdew did run to Luca and take a look there. Which I think we saw in Excal down there.
I believe you are correct. And the Magus Sisters was the boss. Not.
Nightdew did fight Kanizo, I believe, Tingle later.
Yeah, I believe Nightdew, Air, and elmagus.
He doesn't have Nuke just yet, so I think he's just grinding a few levels to get that done.
elmagus has forged the crystal, now heading up to Troya. And it's time for us to ask a question that we ask basically every time we play the game. You want to ask it, Dusty?
Sure. Whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
Yes, it is butt time. As elmagus makes goes through the newly created Serpent Road Enterprise.
We're likely going to see just straight up reflex strats here, maybe some damage from the Yang coming out from elmagus. But how the reflex strats work is Zeramis does a refill of his health at 45,000 damage once a direct attack happens on him. So you can get around that by just reflecting spells against him. And once he gets to 61,000 damage, he falls. So a lot of runners you'll see will be reflecting nukes or white spells to get past that threshold.
Yeah, and as long as Yang isn't dealing damage in that threshold, triggers the refill, he can do some extra damage at the beginning of this fight too.
Absolutely.
Looks like Megas put him in the back row. That to me makes him seem that he's not relying at all.
Yeah,
So.
probably not.
Oh, that is from Mario Paint.
It is fantastic.
I've played that game. I have my Super Nintendo mouse.
All I know is I think that boss in Mario Paint terrified me as a child and scarred me, and this will be a terrifying Zermus fight.
And we see the reflected nukes coming out already. Just as you described, Dusty, not a surprise strategy. This is why you grind to nuke. I mean, other than beating all the other bosses, but this is a big part of why you grind to nuke. We see a Silk Web being thrown. This is going to serve dual purpose at this point in the fight. Dusty mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the Silk Web is going to basically double slow on an enemy, and so that's going to make Zeramus' speed go way down, and that's always very nice. It's
Extremely
also
helpful for pretty well any strat that you're going to go for on Zeramus. Reflect very much so, because you can almost, if you have 3+, sometimes even with 2 casters, if they're doing enough damage, you can get past seeing a second big bang, which is really, really nice.
And the other reason why it's really nice is if you do any sort of action, and the Silk Web is included in it, that makes Zeramus trigger a counter nuke, it's going to basically nerf the first big bang, so it's going to do much less damage. You saw it doing basically a cap of about 1,000 damage, whereas oftentimes the big bang can do upwards of 2,000 or even more damage. And so that first one is not dealing nearly as much damage because of that use at the beginning of the fight.
Magus making good work here, getting through, dealing lots of damage.
Also, make note, it looks like nightdew was baited by that tower, so right now this is absolutely Magus's fight.
For sure, and since we do see Air actually at Twin Harp now, I would imagine he may route Zon right after this. So it's going to be a pretty tight race between Air and nightdew after this.
Without a doubt. The only thing, like if Air for some reason decides to route Sealed Cave of Thought, I think that's going to be how nightdew could take a lead over Air. I think Air is in a very good spot here, but it looks like, I guess nightdew's almost done with the tower here, so you're right, it's going to be very close. Puzzle Cup has Air checked Rat Tail? I don't think so, but I'm not sure. Stormy Galaxies, where was Luca Key again? The fight that Air is doing right now yields the Luca.
Do you see the black hole come out here? So Magus still working through this fight, but I'd say he's not too far off.
We see an HP ran out on Yang. Luckily, that wall was targeting Edward, so we've got the reflected spells going again.
And there's the flash. Crack boom there. And that miss falls. elmagus finished in first. It's a time of 135.20.
GG's to elmagus, very nicely.
Very much. Very well done. Pretty close to a full clear on that one. And to get that under an hour 40, very well done.
Yeah, I think the only check was the Twin Harp that he didn't check, which would have led to...
I believe we're joined by elmagus already. elmagus, GG's.
Thank you.
How did you feel about that seed?
Not very good, I'll tell you that. I had a couple rough fights at the start, more than the seed being bad, really. It's like a couple unlucky hits here and there on my casters, and lost a bit of time there for sure. I didn't feel good about that. Then the open seed with the Darkness Crystal early. Yeah, that was definitely a seat you feel constantly behind in, but overall, it wasn't a bad seed.
Yeah,
But,
with the pieces being fairly deep for almost everyone, a lot of people I think face very similar struggles to you, but you did a very, very good job of riding through that moon quickly, getting through the fights. So worked out well for you there.
yeah, I kind of did a more conservative route, I would say, because, like, I mean, I don't need to win this race, right? So I was like, well, we're gonna go as conservative as possible, see if we can get all the key items one by one, right? Just don't finish last, and everything's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you decided to do your grind really early. Is that something that you like to do in this flag set?
I mean, it's kind of tricky with casters in most instances because depending on the bosses that are on the moon, you can get away with, like, I don't know, level 35 or 30 and just having like Quake or just having the tier 3 spells, but sometimes you need level 40, 45, and you kind of gotta hit a balance there. I do like to go a little higher to get like all tier 3 elemental spells at least, and then the proposition of getting new Quake. That's like kind of my goal when I grind without the 10 key items, but it's hard to say really. It also depends on your party. Obviously with Mage Heavy this time around, we just had the Karate Boy, but other than that, yeah. I think I pretty much had to grind a lot there and commit to my party more or less, other than my anchor.
Well, I think that really paid off for you, especially because having access to that new made it so that some of those more difficult fights that you fought later, like the Kainaza with the Ashura spot and the Opogo at the Bahamut spot, just went a lot faster than they might have done had you been lower level.
Yeah, exactly. That's mostly what you gotta like kind of think about, really, because you have tough bosses there. Well, you better have nuke or else, yeah, you know.
So you're definitely moving on to the next round. As you said, just don't finish last, and you managed that, and then some with this win today. So how are you feeling about this in general?
Honestly, now I feel pretty good, but during the race, I was constantly like, oh man, please don't done right now. Like, constantly. Until I found the adamant, where I was like, I might be in alright shape, okay? My biggest struggle really was like, when I came back to Earth, I knew I needed a different anchor because Toa was not gonna do very well for that. So I prioritized like some of the locations that were, well, first of all, I wanted to clean up Flame Arch because that, like, the water hag was in my head, obviously. But yeah, other than that, I wanted to just get a different character, so I prioritized different stuff, which worked out quite well, I guess.
That's very interesting because some people did mention curious about the check of Zot over Twin Harp, which were your only two choices at the time anyway. So that does make sense because you do want someone a little better in that anchor position, especially when you're running a party like that.
Yeah, the mage parties do need a good anchor. You have to like get somebody, which, I mean, even if the adamant wouldn't have been there, I still would have had like at least a little benefit by getting a different character, right?
Absolutely.
Well, once again, GG's on your finish here. Do you have any final thought about this race or where you're at here in the league right now?
Well, if this keeps going, then I don't have a lot to say. No, but seriously, I mean, I'm having fun. I'm constantly nervous in races, so it's not like I'm unbeatable or anything like that. I guess that was plenty obvious in this race, but yeah, I'm hoping for another good race tomorrow, by the way. And good luck to the rest of the three here that are struggling a little bit in different places. It's interesting, definitely.
Coming in, still obviously doing some real good work here. So GG's on that, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, coming in for this interview and letting us watch your stream. And so now Error has made the decision to go to Zot, whereas the nightdew got kind of was going everywhere except Zot, because went through the tower, went and did that Golbez fight finally, and now is back up in that Nemesis Ogopogo.
Wow.
And so just going to everywhere except where he needs to go. So very
This has turned very interesting here, because we're at a point now where Fleury could actually make his way towards that Zot and make it a pretty close race. I think we'll see nightdew probably go to Zot directly after this.
I don't think he's got anywhere else to.
Exactly. I think he has no other choices, so it's going to take Fleury a bit of time to turn in, well, this Pan here as well as the Rat Tail. But unless Fleury decides to go with Harp or something after this is going to be pretty interesting. And this could really come down to execution on Zeramis fights here at the end of the day.
Without a doubt. That's something that, like when you're dealing with the reflex strategies, it's a very powerful strategy, very fast, it's executed properly. But if you miss your timing and you like a black hole when you've got somebody queuing up a white spell on your reflect thing, then it can go south in a hurry too. So
very, very quickly. Yeah, especially with I mean, we do have a Yang in the party, so there is some safety there for a character with high HP, but the mages do not have high HP, so if they get hit with the bad Big Bang, they're going down pretty easily a lot of the time, depending on what they have equipped. Now, we have seen some good items that will help with that this seed, but still, they're still the most seasoned and veteran of runners can really still fall in the Zeramis fight quite easily.
Yeah. I've said ever since I started doing commentary, not just Zeramis Zone, but Free Enterprise in general, Zeramis is not a joke. Like, don't take it lightly. Like, we've got a lot of different ways that we can like fight this fight, but if you make a mistake, Big Bang is a very serious. Looks like Fleury is going to Cape Magnus first, so that still puts a little behind. Like Error is up at the top of Zot, one battle ahead of nightdew right now, so this is going to be very close.
Very, very close here. As Megas mentioned in his interview, these racers just want to get top 3 here, so the last racer does get eliminated. So it's going to be interesting to see if that plays into how people do their Zeramis fight, if people are a little safer on this as well. So,
but it's also like Fleury is close enough behind that if he routes Zot next, then one mistake in the Zeramis fight or against Wyvern here even
absolutely
could make it so that Fleury jumps right back into this picture. Any one of these 3 could be in that trouble spot. Right now it looks like Error and nightdew are in a little bit of an advantage, but it could go to anyone at this point.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, if you fall in the Zeramis fight, a lot of times that's a 3, 4, 5 minute plus time loss. So that's could be a deciding factor here. Or it's going to be really interesting to see how our runners end up.
Yeah, with that cutscene at the beginning, you're not joking. Luckily, all of our runners have the pass, so you don't need to make a super long walk again. But it's
still
have
music again now.
Yeah. Error has picked up the adamant, now heading down to Cole's hut.
Nightdew going to be maybe a minute behind here.
Nightdew makes it through that Wyvern fight. Gonna get rewarded with the adamant shortly. Aaron remembers to talk to Kokol and pick up the crystal.
Absolutely. Good thing to point out because that is easy to do and we've seen people do it and I know I've done it. So
Oh yeah, it's definitely
no judgment here.
Yeah, I'm not saying that is a judgment at all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially with like when you're tense in a big race situation like that, it's something that can come up, nerves and everything like that. These are people racing. This is like the highest level of free enterprise competition right now. So
yeah, you have a lot going through your mind, and it's an interesting thing. I know I've talked about this a bit before with some people about when you're kind of routing through, you do think a lot of different things in terms of, you know, what am I going to do on my next menu? How am I going to set up my party, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of times that can get in the way of doing simple things such as forging the crystal, and that ends up being sometimes what a difference maker can be. But here, our runners are just go forge that crystal, go forward. We've already seen Air use the pass here. Just quickly go into the Serum plate.
And unfortunately for Fleury, he has decided to take the bait of the Luca key and heading down to
that's too bad. It's going to be a bit of a time sink here for him. Obviously, we know this doesn't lead to anything. But I don't blame him, considering at this point it would have only been Magus had finished.
Right.
So he wants to check, you know, whatever he thinks other people sort of wouldn't have checked yet. And
yeah, it's a gamble play, and it's a totally from Fleury's point.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is the party composition of nightdew and Air is much different than Magus's. They each have 2 physical fighters here, so we might see hybrid strategy than a pure reflex strategy that Magus.
Absolutely. You have some people that can sling out damage by being zerked really quickly, you know. And it helps move that fight along quite fast. Sometimes it's a little safer, especially if you're not comfortable with the reflect, or depending on how strong your hybrid or just straight damage strats are, can work out quite well.
Yeah, a couple of berserker and a white mage is kind of the default strategy for the Zeromits, because it's probably the safest, all things considered. It's just reliable. It's not necessarily the fastest because of that HP refill that we mentioned during Magus's fight. But if you can do a little bit of a hybrid, kind of supplement that berserker strategy with using the powerful nukes and whites reflected that you're doing, you can get through it a little bit too.
Yeah, it looks like if I had to guess that Air is going to go mostly hybrid here. Going to do some reflex, going to be doing some nice damage with these guys. Hiding that Eddie, keeping that 68 HP alive.
And I didn't do a lot of like meticulous checking as people are shopping. There's a strategy with using a unicorn to halt berserking at the right time to avoid that HP refill. Getting kind of the best of both worlds. Fast damage of the berserk and avoiding that refill from the reflect. That involves a lot of making sure you know how much damage people are doing and the right timing on using that unicorn. But when done, it's a really cool, fast strategy to see.
Mm-hmm. It's a very, very neat strategy. Something fairly new.
Yes.
That people have been testing with. Definitely be very beneficial if you have a hybrid team going.
Yeah, this sort of team that we see on both sides, I think, are ones that would like that. But I don't know enough about Air and nightdew if they've practiced that. As you say, it's relatively new.
Sure, absolutely.
And it especially in a race situation, going with a strategy that you're not. I don't think that is the optimal play. Like, I'm not going to go in and do level 5 Eddies. I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, it's not something those types of strats are, you know, typically, you know, go, it's race day. Let's give this a crack for the first time.
Yeah. So yeah, with these berserks, this is definitely a different fight than we saw from elmagus, but This is actually this hybrid strategy is one that personally I prefer. I think it gets through the fight really fast, and oftentimes if you've got enough power that you're combining with the berserking and the spells, you'll often only see one big bang throughout the course.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, somebody is mowing the lawn outside my house. If you're hearing that coming out of me, then I apologize. Did not know that would be happening right.
Just with the light, soothing background noise. It's not coming through too much.
Maybe that's just natimus. That's the buzzing of the giant gnat.
It's the extra sound effects we need on this stream, and this is the high production value. The natimus sound effects adding to the immersion of the Zerma's fight here today.
One other interesting difference in these two fights that we see right now, Error had picked up the default level. Oh, there's the shape. Error has defeated Natimus. I think that's more important than the little thing that I was talking about. GG's to Error. Second place.
Error. Second place with a time of 1 hour, 52 minutes, and 36 seconds. Very well done. Full clearing that seed pretty well.
Yeah, it looks like both Error and nightdew are 17 out of.
Yeah.
And Fleury will be too once he gets his adamant and the crystal.
I believe we have Error here. Error, GG.
Thanks.
How do you feel after that? After that chase of the seed?
Can I have the first seed back? So I had decided when I went Moon that if one of the pieces was Zot, that I was going to lose, but so be it. I'm okay with it. And then I did more and more and more, and still didn't have any of the key items. Did all of Moon. Still had neither of the two pieces, although I found more rabbit hole stuff. And I'm thinking, when I'm coming back from Moon, it's like, is this one of, and no one had finished yet. It was like an hour 30 in. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's like, is this one of those demisted package or giant or something seeds?
Yeah, we were all sort of thinking that until we, of course, saw him over on the Baron King seed, but no one had any part of go mode, excuse me, for a very long time in the seed, and it made it pretty interesting. You made a pretty interesting play early that we were interested in terms of you doing that Kanizo fight. Talk us through your thought process on that one.
It was one of those that I didn't want to just leave it hanging there, considering I had Ice 3 at the time, and sure. I had bought a bunch of Thor Rages, so I knew I could break Wave. So it took me a little bit to get stabilized, but I knew that once I got rolling with it, that I could take it fairly quickly. And it took me a little bit longer than I would have liked, but having the Ice 3 and the Thor Rages then made it a relatively simple fight, just as long as I didn't get nailed by Wave.
Absolutely. The fact that was holding Pan and that Sheila 1 had that hook, it was interesting because we thought, oh, people are going to leave that for late, and of course you did that fairly early, so that was a bit of a benefit to you there. But the only problem being that fight took a little longer for you than for other people at late game levels. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter too much because you ended up in second place, which is really good with this season.
Right.
It went.
I'm getting that pan early was nice, except I don't think it led to any key items because I think I got an Avenger and a something else.
Yeah, I think it was like a Bahamut summon or something.
Yeah, Bahamut, and I already.
The only thing we were thinking was at least people probably won't do the Sheila 1 check until they get that pan. So they leave the Kanaza for late. And get that hook kind of late, which, as we know, led to with that 10 with the rat tail led to go mode or part of go mode. But
right.
But it still worked out for you there. So
did my grind to that one extra key item did help me on Moon though, because I got nuke basically one boss earlier. Because I decided once I got my 10 key items while I was on the moon, that I grinded the nuke with one Palom. I figured that was enough that he'd get the rest of it from the bosses. He was, tanky enough at level 51 to survive it. But it was just one of those seeds that, I'm just keep looking for the .duns, and it's like, oh man, I 17 to 17, 28 to 28 the seed.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no way I'm not getting eliminated here. But I somehow ended up second, so.
Yeah, I think that that Kinazo early and the grinding, like it mentioned, I think gave you that little bit of a boost, because like you had basically cleared out that blue planet, and then the moon bosses came pretty easy after that, whereas like Fleury and Nightdew had a little bit more time getting to that place where you, and so they had some catching up to do, and they had some of the checks that you had done early that they ended up having to do late, whereas you were just smooth sailing to the end.
We'll mention that Nightdew has finished in third place with a time of 1 hour, 57 minutes, 17 seconds.
Yeah, GG's to Nightdew.
GG's to Nightdew.
And then that Wyvern that Zot, which I'm thinking, it's like, well, this boss can't really challenge me. I don't need to go back and save after King and Queen Evelyn. And then it's like, oh, it's Wyvern.
It's like, oh, there you go, yeah.
Oh, oops. Yeah. So that forced me to pick up Eddie, which ended up being okay. I wasn't sure which was the best decision, whether to drop a Yang or whether to drop a Palom, but I wasn't 100% sure that Star Veils were in Troya. I couldn't exactly remember. I didn't actually mark it down. So, and I actually never checked the shop in Tamra, so it means I didn't see the job dwarf. Does that mean I'm disqualified for not even giving myself the opportunity to go talk to him?
I would be, except I don't think any of the runners checked.
So,
Which makes me incredibly sad.
By default, the whole group is out. Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
Oh, it's like I'm saying, Fleury checked, and unfortunately, Fleury's getting eliminated. Thing in this, checking this.
So this is one of those seeds. I'm going to have to watch the full thing later because I'm be interested to see what everyone did.
Oh yeah, this was a really interesting race to watch. The divergence that happened once Moon Access opened up for people was really interesting. Y'all did a great job considering some of the trolls that happened and whatnot. So GG's on that. Any parting words or any final thoughts on the seed there?
Well, we're back at it. Same bat time, same. Well, maybe not same bat channel, but same time tomorrow to see which of the two of us makes it.
GG's and congrats on making it through to the next race.
Thank you.
And Fleury does finish now to miss.
Yeah, unfortunately for Fleury, in place, meaning Fleury's going to be eliminated in the league, but a very good showing making it this round. And
GG's to him.
And all things considered, just a couple minutes behind Nightdew for qualifying for the next round as well. So very well played by Fleury as well.
Absolutely. And I believe we are joined by Nightdew. And Nightdew, GG.
Hello.
How do you feel after that one? I assume it's some anxiety by seeing two people finish ahead of you and being in the zero miss fight.
Anxiety is less that, well, I mean, it's anxiety. Anxiety is like being at $130, no piece of go mode to be seen.
Yeah.
And then realizing, I mean, nobody expects to go 28-28 and win. So, yeah.
Yeah, as me and Rex were kind of discussing during the seed, you have to think that the goal a lot of times on these sets of races is, of course, just to not get last and to move forward. But with this race and how it went, it was a pretty big struggle for everyone because we were, I think, as commentators, close to that as well before we saw anyone with a piece of go mode either. So it was a pretty deep go mode seed, so I'm sure everyone felt very much the same way there, being on edge.
It was either that or the couple of wipes at Ogopogo. What a mean place for him to be.
Absolutely, yeah. That was an interesting point for you, and obviously a bit of a struggle. Talk us through how you felt about leaving that and then going to do some of the rest of the seed there.
Obviously I went up to Moon. I don't know if I was really early or not. I mean, just because I did kind of expect Dwarf Castle, I like doing that without a pan. But honestly, it was more of the whole, I hate leaving it up there, but on the same, I mean, it's the point where you get to the point where either you can bash your head against it for a while longer, or you can go do something that will actually help you win. And I went back up there. I'm thinking, okay, back when we had like 3 checks left, at that point, I think I had seen the dot done. And I mean, at that point, it was like Baron in, Ogopogo, and Zot. And I'm like, it could be any one of these 3. There is no way to meta this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and from our point of view, it's just like every time at that point you're not going to Zot, we're like, come on, just go there, and we've got it. I mean, of course, from your logic, it's got to be one of these 3 places. All of them are going to take a little bit of time, and I don't necessarily blame you for going back up to the Moon to fight that Ogo. I mean, you wanted your revenge after what he did to you earlier this season.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, to be fair, I do kind of. I mean, I had a party. I didn't really want to. If I have a party, I'm not going to touch that Earth Crystal for a while. It's a pretty, it's like an ordeal scale check, honestly. I don't like jumping up there.
Yeah, I think that was kind of our thought, because almost everybody had the Earth Crystal relatively early, and nobody went to Zot until, like, that was the go mode check for every runner today. And I think the fact that you blessed with, like, good physical damage from Yang, you had the white mage and the black mage all right handed to you right at the beginning, that Zot just became way less of a... And I think that's basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah, we did have it. We didn't really, and I don't check. I checked a lot more shops than I usually do this time. I was just looking for, like, rods, change rod, a Lilith rod, something for the black mages. I mean, they were both pretty much sitting on base stuff. I mean, I was kind of hooked to tier 3 spells and damage and Yang, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I should have stayed for nuke, but I'm like up on Moon with 5 key items. I'm like, we'll come back.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the struggle, especially when you do that move dive and you have those just few key items. Hey,
I was absolutely thinking like Warlock grind until I saw Tella up there. And I'm like, well, there's my week, so okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point. At that point, that probably would have been faster. But yeah, getting that week there, it's a nice pickup.
So we just hope to see something a little less 28 out of 28 tomorrow, but survive in advance, and that's what happened.
Absolutely. How do you feel moving into your match tomorrow?
I mean, yeah, I feel pretty good. I mean, I can't really just say, today. I mean, 3 people went 28 out of 28, and that's probably the reason I'm still in right now, but, I mean, tomorrow's a new seed. We could have a super jet, and we just gotta, I just gotta do what I can.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts on the seed? Any parting words for today, nightdew?
Let's put Ogopogo a little someplace a little more sane next time. Or give me more than 1 Yang to hit him with.
I think everyone could agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, GG's, I do, and
GG.
good job on the race today.
Thank you.
And good luck tomorrow. All right, so there we have it. elmagus Air and nightdew qualifying. Let's see here, just checking to see whether or not we're going to get an interview.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. It's going to be interesting to see if we get similar seats to this tomorrow, with this group specifically, just because we'll see with 3 racers, when you have a 20 out of 28 seed like this, that can be pretty interesting, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how this group works out. And we do have Fleury joining us. Fleury, GG.
Thank you.
Yeah, really close at the end, just a couple minutes behind nightdew. How do you feel about your run tonight?
A little salty. Pretty upset with how I handled the Hobbs fight, but otherwise, like,
Yeah,
wasn't too bad. Like, I probably lost about 3 minutes there, just borking the life lock, and then I should have just reset out and come back. Not like the team wasn't good enough as it was to start, and then other than that, it was like everybody else, or at least 2 other people, 28 out of 28'd. So it was kind of just a case of guessing wrong. But at the same time, when everybody does the same amount of content and you're a couple minutes behind, not much to complain about.
Yeah, this was definitely the about as rabbit holey as you can get for speed when you've got people who have full cleared the moon and we still haven't seen either crystal. And I think that's just like, as you said, any place where you might lose a couple minutes, if everybody's doing everything, then that could definitely be the difference in the race.
Yeah, it's I figured if somebody had done Earth, and if somebody had done Zot, because that was kind of, I won't say Water Hag at Leviathan isn't free, but given the quality of the runners here, I kind of figured everybody had that. And I figured if somebody would have done it, we would have seen a pretty early not done. And then I think Magus's came on, but by the time Magus's came up, I was pretty much off the moon. So that kind of led me to leave. Well, I guess don't do Zot. And unfortunately, that's not how it worked out. I was kind of hoping it was actually Kenazo, because that would have been like the one fight that not everybody would be able to complete early easily. And after getting 10 and being able to grind and take out Ogo and Kenazo relatively quickly, that was kind of my gamble, is that I could leverage the levels into, 2 difficult boss fights that only took a couple minutes, and it just didn't work out.
Right, and that's the gamble that you make. If it had been at Kenazo, this would have been a very different finish, all things considered.
Yeah, it's, that's just how the random goes sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And this one is really an interesting show of that, because around the midpoint, a lot of you did diverge for paths in terms of who went to moon first and who started clearing out the rest of the Earth, and et cetera, et cetera. So this one kind of opened up in a strange way and ended up just going so deep because of how trolly those items were. And I think it's interesting trying to metagame off of this one a bit, because of how a finish time, I find, in that hour 30, hour 40 range can be almost make you metagame yourself out of a place sometimes of how things work. But with how the seed went, I think y'all did a pretty great job with it.
Yeah, I think the tough one was that those checks that were open by the time you saw the Darkness Crystal were all time consuming. So there were all things that you generally consider leaving on your plate. The Kenazo fight, both towers. I'm back and forth on that, but you've seen that so early. I kind of feel like it's one of those you got to check. But if you don't do it, you save 6-7 minutes. So just one of the spots I could have skipped, I didn't skip, and that's all it was.
Absolutely. 2 minutes in the difference is pretty tight, and like you said, there could be just one boss check. Any final thoughts, any parting words on the C today, or on the league in general, Fleur?
No, pretty happy with top 16. That was kind of the goal, so just gotta get better for next time. I appreciate all the time and work that goes into making something like this happen, and look forward to whatever it is we get next.
Well, GG today, and well done.
Thank you.
All right, that's fleury14. Make sure everybody to give all of these runners a follow. elmagus, nightdew, and fleury14 putting on a great race tonight. Also, big shout outs everybody behind the scenes. We've got Smaped doing the restreaming tonight. Make sure we have a show. Rinit doing a great job of tracking. and all of the administrators for this league, who there's just too many to mention right now, but they're just doing such a great job making sure that we've got these races going and that everything's going fair. We had a little bit of a delay at the beginning, but we got that sorted out relatively fast, and glad that we had a really good race and a really interesting race that we got to see tonight. Any last thoughts, Dusty?
I think that was a great seed to showcase this first round of 16, or the first round of 16 seed. So really happy with it. Great job to the racers, and yeah, great job to the team on this one tonight.
Absolutely. And right now we're going to go ahead and take over to Natara, who's playing some free enterprise. But thanks everybody for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Bye, y'all.